Emma Lewis thought she knew everything about the man she loved. But Daniel Harper was never who he claimed to be, because buried beneath his charm and quiet smile was a secret so horrifying. It would shatter her world and expose a trail of darkness stretching back years. Emma Lewis always believed she was one of the lucky ones. At 27, she had a steady job managing a small boutique in her hometown of Maplewood, and a boyfriend who seemed almost too perfect to be real. Daniel Harper was everything she had ever wanted: kind, soft-spoken, and endlessly attentive. He had a gentle smile that made people instantly trust him, and a calm, reassuring presence that made Emma feel safe in a world that often wasn't. They met 3 years ago at a photography exhibition, where Daniel had been showcasing his work. He told her he was a freelance photographer who traveled across towns capturing moments most people overlooked. Emma admired his artistic eye, and soon their connection grew into something deep and inseparable. They moved in together a year later, renting a cozy single-story house on the edge of town. The neighbors loved Daniel. He always waved, helped with groceries, and even fixed small things around their houses. Everyone called them the perfect couple. To Emma, life felt complete. They spent lazy Sundays watching old movies, went on spontaneous weekend road trips, and often dreamed about buying a home of their own someday. But perfection has a strange way of hiding flaws, and slowly, Emma began to notice tiny cracks in the life she thought she understood. Daniel rarely spoke about his family. Whenever she asked, his answers were vague. He claimed he'd lost touch with them years ago after a bad falling out, but never explained why. He had no social media presence, no old photos from childhood, and no friends who ever visited. When she once suggested visiting his hometown, he changed the subject so quickly it left her uneasy. Still, Emma brushed it off as his being private. Everyone has secrets, she told herself. Some just take longer to share. But things started to shift. Daniel began taking sudden work trips, often leaving with little notice and no clear explanation. He would tell her he was heading to a nearby city for a photography project, but when Emma asked about the clients, he would shrug it off, saying they preferred privacy. Sometimes he'd come back with scratches on his hands, dirt on his shoes, or stains on his clothes that didn't look like paint or mud. He'd laugh it away, claiming he had fallen during a hike or tripped over rocks while taking pictures. Emma wanted to believe him. She loved him too much not to. Late at night, she sometimes woke up to find him gone from bed. When she asked, he said he couldn't sleep and had gone for a drive to clear his mind. Once she noticed his car wasn't in the driveway at all until early morning. Another time she found his camera bag missing, though he never showed her any new photos afterward. Her unease grew, but Daniel's warmth during the day made her doubt her instincts. One rainy evening when Daniel was away on another short trip, Emma decided to clean his study. It was a small, dimly lit room filled with camera equipment, old film rolls, and notebooks. As she organized his desk drawers, she stumbled upon something strange: a worn leather wallet tucked beneath a stack of old receipts. Curious, she opened it, expecting to find Daniel's ID. Instead, she froze. The identification card inside bore Daniel's face but a completely different name: David Harlan. The address was unfamiliar, and the date of birth didn't match the one Daniel had on his driver's license. A chill spread through her body as she stared at the card. Why would he have another identity? Was it a fake for work or something else? She searched the rest of the drawer and found nothing else unusual, but her mind couldn't let go of the discovery. When Daniel returned the next day, smiling as if nothing was wrong, she couldn't look at him the same way. Every word he spoke sounded rehearsed. Every glance seemed loaded with hidden meaning. That night, lying beside him, she realized something terrifying. She didn't truly know the man she loved. For 3 years she had shared her home, her trust, and her life with a stranger. And deep down she could feel that whatever secret he was hiding, it was something far darker than she could ever imagine. The days following her discovery felt heavy and unreal, as if Emma were living inside someone else's life. She tried to go about her daily routine, opening the boutique, greeting customers, smiling when spoken to. But every time her mind wandered, it returned to that old leather wallet and the name David Harlan. The letters of the name echoed in her thoughts like a whisper she couldn't silence. At night she lay awake listening to Daniel's breathing beside her, wondering which version of him was real. The man who made her coffee every morning or the stranger who carried another identity. Emma told herself it could have an innocent explanation. Maybe it was for freelance work. Maybe a forgotten fake ID from a photography project. But her instincts didn't believe that. There was something calculated about the way Daniel always avoided questions, something too deliberate in how smoothly he hid details about himself. The more she thought about it, the more the fragments of their past started to feel like clues she had overlooked. The mysterious trips, the unreturned calls, the nights he came home smelling of dirt and pine. She remembered the faint cut on his wrist after his last trip, and how quickly he'd covered it with a sleeve when she noticed. One evening, when Daniel was out for a late meeting, Emma couldn't resist the pull of her suspicions. She unlocked his laptop hoping to find something, anything that could tell her the truth. But the computer was almost empty. No photos, no personal documents, no saved work files. The recycling bin was cleared. The only thing she found was a folder named Contacts, containing a list of phone numbers with no names attached. Her heart sank. Whoever he was, he had gone to great lengths to keep his life hidden. That night, as she lay in bed, she watched him from the corner of her eye when he returned. His calm expression seemed practiced, and the way he kissed her forehead felt mechanical. When he finally drifted to sleep, Emma turned on her phone and carefully scrolled through his messages. Most were deleted, but one unsent draft caught her attention. It was short and chilling. "It's done. No one will find out." Her hands trembled as she read it over and over.
She didn't know what it was, but she knew it wasn't something good.
The following morning, driven by fear and curiosity, Emma decided to visit the address written on the fake ID, just to see what she might find. She told Daniel she was meeting a friend from college and left before he woke up. The drive took nearly an hour. The neighborhood was quiet, almost desolate, with cracked sidewalks and boarded-up houses. When she found the address, her stomach tightened. The house was abandoned, its windows shattered, the front door hanging loosely from its hinges. For a long moment she sat in her car, debating whether to leave. But curiosity won. Inside, the air smelled of mold and dust. The wooden floors creaked under her steps and faint footprints marked a path through the debris. Every sound made her flinch, but something urged her forward. The living room walls were bare except for a few nails where pictures once hung. The only door that remained closed was the one leading to the basement. She hesitated at the top of the stairs, then turned on her phone flashlight and descended slowly. The air grew colder the farther she went. The light flickered across the walls, revealing something that made her blood run cold. A corkboard covered in photographs. They were pictures of women, each with a name and date written beneath it. Some of the women looked terrified, others were smiling. But they all had one thing in common. Their photos looked personal, intimate, as if they had been taken without their knowledge. Emma's breath hitched when she saw the last photo on the board. It was her own picture, one Daniel had taken months ago during a picnic in the park. Beneath it, written in neat handwriting, was her name, Emma Lewis, and the date of that very week. Her legs gave out and she nearly dropped her phone. For a moment, all she could hear was her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. She stumbled backward, clutching the wall for balance, her mind spinning in terror. It was no longer a question of who Daniel was. It was what he was. The man she loved, the man who slept beside her every night, was living a life built on secrets darker than she could have imagined. As she fled the house, the air outside felt suffocatingly still. The quiet suburban world around her no longer looked safe. And when she looked back one last time, she thought she saw a camera tripod near the window, its lens pointed directly toward her car. Emma drove home in silence. Her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. The quiet hum of the car engine did nothing to drown out the storm inside her head. She couldn't erase the image of those photographs from her mind. The women's faces, the cold precision of the notes beneath them, and her own picture pinned among them like a future waiting to happen. Every memory of Daniel now felt poisoned. Every gentle moment, every kind gesture now looked like part of something calculated and sinister. She wanted to believe she was wrong, that there was some rational explanation, but deep down she already knew the truth. When she reached home, Daniel wasn't there. His car was gone and the house was silent. Emma stepped inside cautiously, half expecting to find him waiting. The stillness made her uneasy. She locked the door behind her and began searching the house, desperate for answers. She checked drawers, closets, and shelves, looking for anything that could explain what she had seen in that basement. At first she found nothing but ordinary things: bills, camera equipment, old receipts. But then she noticed something strange in the attic. A wooden panel in the far corner looked newer than the others, as if it had been replaced recently. Her heart pounded as she climbed the ladder and pried it open. Behind the panel was a small metal box, locked shut with an old latch. She brought it down and forced it open with a screwdriver. Inside was a collection of items that made her blood run cold. Jewelry, rings, bracelets, necklaces, all belonging to different women. There were old photographs, too, each showing a different woman smiling, unaware of whoever was behind the camera. At the bottom of the box was a small flash drive labeled Collection. Emma's hands trembled as she plugged it into her laptop. It took a moment to load, but when the files appeared, she felt her stomach twist. Hundreds of images filled the screen. Portraits of women, some candid, some clearly taken without consent. One folder stood out, marked Final Moments. Against her better judgment, she opened it. What she saw made her slam the laptop shut and stumble backward. The photographs inside showed the same women lying motionless in what looked like wooded areas, half buried under dirt and leaves. For several minutes she couldn't breathe. The man she loved wasn't just living a double life, he was a predator. Her entire relationship had been a lie, carefully crafted by someone who hunted people like her. She remembered his late-night trips, the unexplained stains on his clothes, the random scratches on his arms. It all made sense now. Each work trip had likely been something far darker. Tears welled in her eyes as panic consumed her. She wanted to run, to scream, to tell someone, anyone. But she couldn't think straight. She unplugged the flash drive, shoved it back into the box, and hid everything under her bed. She didn't know what to do yet, only that she couldn't let him know she had discovered the truth. That night Daniel came home. Emma pretended to be asleep, but she could feel his presence the moment he entered the room. He moved quietly, almost too quietly, as if trying not to make a sound. She heard him stop by her side of the bed for a moment before walking away. When he finally lay down, she kept her breathing steady, pretending to dream. Every second felt like an eternity. She didn't sleep at all. Her thoughts raced, her fear growing with every minute that passed. She knew she had to go to the police, but how could she explain it? What if they didn't believe her? The photos alone were enough to prove something terrible, but she had no idea if Daniel would come back before she could escape. When morning came, he left for another trip, leaving her a note on the kitchen counter that read, "Gone for a few days. Love you." Emma stared at the note for a long time, her heart pounding. Love. The word now felt grotesque coming from him. She knew she couldn't wait any longer. The flash drive, the box, the photographs, they were all evidence of something monstrous. She packed everything into her bag, locked the door behind her, and drove toward the police station. But as she looked in her rearview mirror, a shiver ran through her spine. A black car was following her, keeping just far enough behind not to draw attention. She didn't recognize it, but deep down she knew. Daniel was no longer just a man with secrets. He was a man who watched. And now, he knew she was starting to see the truth. Emma's heart pounded as she drove through the winding suburban streets, the black car keeping its steady distance behind her. The world outside her window blurred into meaningless shapes. Houses, trees, streetlights, all passing too fast to matter. Every nerve in her body screamed that she was being hunted. She took random turns, hoping to lose whoever was following her. But each time she glanced into the mirror, the car was still there, a dark shadow glued to her path. Panic clawed at her chest until finally she swerved suddenly into a crowded supermarket parking lot and cut the engine. The car behind her drove past slowly and disappeared around the corner. For several minutes she sat frozen, gripping the steering wheel, barely breathing. When she finally gathered enough courage, she drove straight to a motel on the outskirts of town, checking in under a fake name. Inside the dimly lit room, she sat on the edge of the bed, trying to make sense of what was happening. She had the flash drive, the photographs, and the fake ID, all proof of Daniel's double life. But she felt paralyzed by fear. What if he already knew she'd gone through his things? What if he had cameras hidden somewhere in the house? The thought made her skin crawl. As much as she wanted to go to the police, something in her gut warned her that she needed to be careful. If Daniel really had done the things she now believed he had, then he was capable of anything. The next morning she woke to dozens of missed calls, all from Daniel. No messages, no explanations, just silence. She blocked his number and finally drove to the nearest police station. Clutching her bag like a lifeline, she told the officer everything. The fake identity, the hidden photos, the strange messages, and the house full of women's pictures. The officers listened intently, taking notes, but their expressions shifted when they checked Daniel's name in their system. They told her that no one named Daniel Harper existed, at least not legally. But the name David Harlan, the one on the fake ID, brought up a different story. David Harlan had been a suspect in multiple disappearances over the past decade. The women were all between their mid-20s and 30s. Most of them were last seen with a man matching Daniel's description, often someone they had recently started dating. The cases had gone cold years ago after he vanished from another town under a new name. The realization hit Emma like a blow. The man she had shared her life with wasn't just a liar. He was a predator who had been doing this for years, hiding behind charm and stolen identities. The police immediately began an investigation, sending officers to search her home. They found the box, the photographs, and the fake ID exactly as Emma had described. But by the time they issued a warrant for Daniel's arrest, he was gone. His car was discovered abandoned near a forest miles away, keys still in the ignition. There were no fingerprints, no signs of struggle, and no clues about where he had gone. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. News spread quickly. The media labeled him the ghost photographer. Photos of Emma circulated online alongside his, and strangers filled comment sections with speculation and theories. Some called her brave. Others accused her of being involved. The attention was unbearable. She moved to a new apartment in another city, hoping to escape the noise. For a while she tried to believe it was over. She started therapy, changed her job, and began building a quiet, isolated life. But even in her new home, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Small things began to unsettle her. A camera flash reflected in her window one night, the faint click of her door handle when she was sure she'd locked it, and a single photograph that arrived in her mailbox, an image of her old house taken from across the street. The note on the back read, "You should have stayed quiet." She took it to the police, but they could do little. There were no fingerprints, no trace of who sent it. They told her it might be a prank or an obsessed follower of the case. But Emma knew better. The handwriting was the same as the labels on the photographs she had found in the basement. She didn't say anything to anyone after that. Instead, she began sleeping with the lights on, checking her windows twice every night. She kept her phone charged and her bag packed, just in case she had to run again. The world outside looked normal, but Emma knew that somewhere out there, Daniel or David was still watching. And he wasn't done with her yet. Time passed, but peace never came. Emma tried to convince herself that Daniel was gone for good. that he had fled the country or died in the woods where his car was found. But even when months turned into a year, the fear never loosened its grip. She lived cautiously, moving apartments twice, changing her phone number, and avoiding social media altogether. She told no one her real address, not even her co-workers. Every unfamiliar noise made her jump. Every shadow on the street felt like it was watching her. The trauma had become her constant companion. Therapy helped her survive but never fully heal. She learned to smile again, to carry on small conversations without revealing the heaviness inside. People around her thought she was recovering. They had no idea that she slept with her phone under her pillow and a kitchen knife hidden beneath her bed. Despite all the precautions, she could never escape the feeling that someone was keeping track of her. Quietly, from somewhere just out of sight. One afternoon, while sorting through old boxes in her new apartment, she found something that froze her in place, an envelope with no return address. Her name was written on the front in familiar handwriting, neat and precise. She tore it open with trembling hands. Inside was a single photograph of her and Daniel, taken years ago at the park where he had proposed the idea of moving in together. They were smiling, arms wrapped around each other, the sunlight washing over their faces. But on the back of the photograph were 5 chilling words. "You almost ruined everything." Emma dropped the photo and stumbled backward. The wall seemed to close in around her. It meant he was alive. He had found her again. She called the police immediately, but when they examined the envelope, they found nothing. No fingerprints, no trace of DNA, nothing that could prove who had sent it. The detective assigned to her case gently suggested it might be someone playing a cruel prank, maybe a stranger obsessed with the news story. But Emma knew that wasn't true. The handwriting was his. The message was his. After that, strange things began to happen. Her lights flickered at night even though the wiring was fine. She would wake up to find her door slightly open, though she was certain she had locked it before sleeping. Sometimes she heard faint clicks, like the sound of a camera shutter coming from outside her window. Once, when she went to take out the trash, she noticed muddy footprints near her back door. They were large and fresh, leading away into the darkness. Sleep became impossible. Every night she sat in bed clutching her phone, waiting for morning. She told herself she needed to leave again, maybe even change her name this time. But before she could make a plan, another envelope appeared. This one was slid under her door while she slept. Inside was a new photograph, one that made her blood turn to ice. It was a picture of her sleeping, taken from inside her apartment. The note beneath it said only, "I found you." Emma screamed and ran into the hallway, pounding on her neighbor's door until someone called the police. They arrived within minutes, but the intruder was gone. The officers searched her apartment and found no signs of forced entry. It was as if whoever took the photo had appeared and vanished without leaving a trace. They placed her under temporary protection, but after a few weeks with no new incidents, the case went quiet again. Then, 2 weeks later, Emma vanished. Her landlord found the door unlocked, her phone charging on the kitchen counter and her bag still packed by the bed. The police searched every inch of the building, every street, every security camera in the area, but there was no sign of her leaving. The only thing left behind was a photograph pinned to the wall. It showed Daniel, or David, standing in the middle of a suburban street on a sunny day, holding a camera and smiling directly into the lens. Authorities reopened the investigation, but no new leads surfaced. Some believed Emma had fled out of fear, while others whispered darker theories. To this day, her disappearance remains unsolved. The photo found in her apartment was the last confirmed trace of David Harlan. No one knows where he went or who his next target might be, but every few years another envelope arrives at the local police station, each one containing a photograph of a different woman, smiling on a suburban street with the same chilling message written on the back. "She trusted me too."